Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. I'm Brian Winnikins, and good Wednesday morning as we continue our spotlight this week with Alfalawn Farms and the Steyer family. Thank you to Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin for supporting our monthly spotlights. And Dave joins us again, and we're going to talk about something he won't consider himself an expert. I do, because I've called Dave before with questions on water issues, and part of that is because he's been on a bunch of committees here in Dunn County, and they practice so many different things here on the farm that he's kind of my go-to guy. And Dave, you've been on a whole bunch of different committees here in Dunn County dealing with water issues.
Yeah, we were on. I was asked to be on the CAFO committee in Dunn County a few years back, and it was extremely involved committee. They were looking at the impact of CAFOs in Dunn County and especially on water quality and things like that. And so also was a member of the DAC-CAP committee that looked at nitrate rules and rewrite here in the last couple of years. And so we've done a lot of work with water quality issues on the farm. And I think one of the things that I'm really proud of is that dairy has a good story to tell. I think if you look at the 5 or 6 CAFOs in Dunn County, all of them have relatively low nitrate levels in their groundwater, and like 3.5 or less. And I think one of the reasons for that is that dairy farming in general utilizes a lot of alfalfa production. They utilize manure from their own dairy as fertilizer, and so they reduce their use of synthetic fertilizers, urea, nitrogen fertilizers, things of that nature. And I think, I think it's a good story to tell that people just don't know enough about.
I know that a few years back I had come out, and because in Pepin County we've been dealing with this, and I'm like, you don't have any problems, why? And you pointed out to the fields and say, well, what's out there? I'm like, alfalfa, that's why.
Yeah, and it's to me it's something that a lot of dairy farmers take for granted, but I think it's a huge deal. Alfalfa has the ability to produce its own nitrogen. They're getting more technology as we go down the road, corn plants that with additives and things of that nature that can do the same thing. And so we're increasing the use of products that can, in our corn, that can create their own nitrogen, and reducing our use of synthetic fertilizers on corn as much as we can. One of the things that was really eye-opening for myself and my wife a couple years ago, we were fortunate to travel to Scotland and Ireland on a trip with dairy judging with our son. And one of the things that I asked just about every farm we were at was where their nitrates levels were at in their groundwater. And there wasn't a single farm that could tell me anything about their nitrate levels. And that was really eye-opening. And so we'd gone to a couple different big shows, the Highland show in Scotland, and then we went to another show in Ireland that was a local show. And when we got there, the tour guide came and got me and says, Dave, you need to come and talk to this person. And so we went over, and here they had a booth set up. It was a water quality booth, and the gal was kind of running it, and said, Dave, she can answer your questions. And so I started talking to her about groundwater nitrate levels in Ireland and where they were at. And she felt the average farm from her testing was somewhere between a 7 and an 8 on nitrate levels. And for me, that was shocking, because Ireland, Scotland have a lot of heavy soils, a lot of heavy clay soils. They don't have hardly any corn production. They're growing a lot of small grains, but they are fertilizing it at very high nitrogen levels because they're trying to get 130, 150 bushel yields out of these small grains. And so to me, to have that high of nitrate levels in their groundwater with that much clay soil means that they're going to have that problem for a long time to come. And so looking at how we utilize things on our farm, we talked a little bit about water and how it's used on the dairy. Every gallon of water that we use on the farm, we use 3 to 6 times over. We recycle as much as possible. One of the interesting things for me is on the dairy, our average cow will use about 35 gallons of water a day, which seems like a lot, but when you put it in context to what the average person in the city of Menominee uses, they're right between 80 and 100 gallons per person per day. And talked to the well administrator from Menominee to get that number. Also the well administrator from Cumberland, which echoed that 80 to 100 gallons per person per day usage level. And so where the cows are at 35 gallons of water per day, of that 35 gallons, quite a bit of it, maybe 10 gallons, 8 to 10 gallons, leaves the farm in the form of milk every day for people to drink. What's left over ends up going into our manure pits and eventually is spread back out on the ground and worked back into the soil for crop use, or eventually will work back down into the groundwater table. So it's I think we have a very positive story to tell from the dairy side as far as water use and how we take care of it, and the value, or the the ability of manure to provide added value as a form of fertilizer to reduce nitrogen dependency on crops is a huge deal.
And because that manure is incredibly valuable, you do a lot of things here on the farm to make sure that it stays where it's supposed to until you can get it out onto the fields. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we do. We have been no-till farming for right around 35 years, near as I can recollect. And we started when I was young. When we first started no-till farming, it was kind of a joke. People would say no-till, no yield. But I think it's gotten to the point now with the science of crop production and the machinery that's out there that it's very widely used. It's really something that in our area you see a lot of, and I think it gets it's different by geography, and you don't have to drive too far away to see where they don't use as much no-till, but I think there's a lot of places that could use it a lot better. I think we also do cover crops, so everywhere where we take corn silage off, we'll come back in and seed down a rye cover crop in the fall. That's something we've been doing pretty hard the last few years. A lot of crop rotation, as I talked about before. We use the alfalfa, corn silage, soybeans, that kind of thing. So we're changing it up that way. So different things that we can do to maintain our soil health, and really focusing more on some of the ability of the soil to stay healthy. Not just farming it, but to have a healthy living soil that can be productive down the road.
We're talking with David Starr with Alfalawn Farms. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the soil health as well, and even where the milk goes and how they make sure that milk stays wholesome for you. We'll do that tomorrow morning as well as we continue our week-long spotlights with Alfalawn Farms. Thank you to Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. You're listening to WRDN.